Hello, everyone. I hope everyone has treated themselves with kindness and respect. This is video number 3. I wanted to talk about the impact of the loneliness that happens after a breakup, or the loneliness that can happen after a breakup. Because as I've explained, I was in a relationship for 16 years, and for me it was unforeseen, unexpected, of the decision for the breakup to be called a day, for the marriage to be called a day. And yeah, it hits hard. It hits hard. You're absolutely bamboozled, disorientated, and you're completely all over the place. You don't know your ups and your downs, your lefts and your rights, and it's just you don't even know where you are, where you stand, and the ground just gets absolutely pulled from underneath you. If you're in a situation like I was, which is where you don't foresee it coming, you're blindsided by it. Which statistically, I was reading that is unfortunately most of the cases. It's just someone makes a decision that you're no longer aligned, and that's it. And that's it. When someone's on a different wavelength from you are, and that your paths no longer align and you're no longer in sync with each other, then that other person can want and desire it to be okay and to rebuild and to mend. But if the other person's not interested, or that ship has sailed, or they've emotionally disconnected, there's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do to get that person back or your situation back. It's in that regard, it's done, it's gone. The only thing you have left is for something new to develop naturally and organically. You can't force the situation to be as it was, because it's not anymore. And that hits hard. That's the reality of the fact that, you crave that because, like you said, for that person who was not the victim, the person who was had the breakup happen to them, didn't want that. Didn't want, even expect to change. Didn't know that a change was necessary. So, and that loneliness can hit hard, especially if you have a family and that family means everything to you. Because the reality of not being in the same house as your children, not seeing them every evening, not seeing them every morning, kissing them goodnight, good, welcoming them, saying good morning to them, and and the next day, that's hard when you come back to an empty flat rather than the hustle and bustle of a family and a family life. And someone that you talk to, how was your day? You talk, someone that you can decompress with, someone that you chat to and spend time with, who is your, essentially, you can be your best friend, you know? And then you come back, and then all of a sudden those dynamics change on a dime, and then you no longer recognize that person. That's what's happened to me. I was like, hang on, who are you? Where's my wife gone for the last 14 years? Who is this person? You seem like a stranger. This cold and robotic kind of approach. It's that warmth is gone, and that takes a lot to adjust, and it's incredibly lonely, and you feel very isolated. But again, you keep going, I'm not in that place anymore at all. And whoever watches this, I don't want them to think that this is my current state. Don't get me wrong, you still have lonely days. Of course you do. Like I said before, is human beings are social creatures. Some people naturally adore their own company and adapt to having their own company, and actually they want to be back in a relationship, but they've struggled with the prospect of giving up their own independence because they're so used to it and so adapted to it over such a long period of time that they find that very hard to give up. And you do adjust. It is incredibly isolating and lonely, and you do feel very much alone, and the fact that everyone else is continuing with their lives and you just feel stuck and sometimes moving backwards. And that's hard. That's really hard, that loneliness. And like I say, coming back to an empty flat and having no one there, it's very hard. But you get through it. And you get through it by, or how I got through it, this is, my opinions and what worked for me, is by forcing yourself to move, to get out there and do stuff. Because what you don't want to do is wait for life to happen. You don't want for the loneliness to subside. You don't want the answers that you desperately seek to come your way, the closure, the validation, because they won't. Unfortunately, I've never had that closure because there was nothing in that regard to actually have that closure for it. Like I said, there wasn't an answer. Um, so get yourself out there, and that loneliness will start dissolving. And think of it as not isolation, but more of solitude and the opportunity to really dig deep and look inwards and get to know yourself. Um, they say, again, I was reading that growth and development don't happen when people are watching, giving you applause, giving you cheers. It happens when you're on your own, in the quiet moments, and when you're in your own mind and your own personal journey of and self-belief. That's when the real growth and work happens. But you have to give yourself that chance. You have to give yourself that time. And to combat the loneliness, get out there. Like I said, go on these social apps, meet up with other people, go and have a friend for coffee, get yourself out there, go and do a food shop on rather than doing it online, so you're actually socializing and interacting with other human beings. Get yourself to the gym. Someone said to me, get yourself to the gym, you'll mentally and physically feel so much better. Whereas I work outside for a living and I don't really have any inclination to go to the gym, but I will do it. What works for me is swimming. I like to swim, and actually what I've just recently started doing is finding out a dance class. And I don't care if people laugh at that, whatever, but that's brilliant. I really look forward to that. It's a dance class which has got all different, it's like 100 people every week attend this dance class, and it's all different abilities, all different age ranges, men and women, and everyone has a laugh, everyone jokes, smiles, chats, and that's brilliant. That is absolutely incredible. You come out of that feeling so invigorated and lighter because of the fact that you're having that human contact, you're having that interaction, and you realize that everyone's looking for the same thing too. People just want to be able to smile and laugh and have a good time, because sometimes that gets swallowed up. You lose that. You completely lose that from your own grief and your own overthinking and your own anxiety. And so just breaking that cycle, breaking that monotony, it massively helps. Like I say, get out, go for a run, go for a walk, pick up the phone, speak to someone, and you start getting to a point where you go, actually, I'm all right. I can handle being in my own company, because you no longer fear it, because you're not scared of finding out or looking in the mirror on who you are, because you put the work in. You start validating yourself, reassuring yourself, counseling yourself, and knowing that you're a good person, and that gives you so much empowerment. Um, and then you start, like I say, you don't wait for life to happen. You have to get out there and make it happen. You have to put one foot in front of the other and make it happen. It's not going to magically appear in your lap or knock at the door. You have to get out there. And I mean, there's days when you're not going to want to, of course there are. There's days when you're going to want to shut the world out, and that's fine. I get days like that where you go, actually, do you know what? I need right now to actually shut the world out and just be by myself. And that's fine. But it's just, as long as you don't make that your natural habitat, you, like I say, you want to get out there, and that's the way you move. That's the way you keep moving forwards. That's the way you build momentum, is you get out there and you talk to people, and you meet people that like-minded or similar hobbies, or not, and like I said, interests, hobbies, sports, whatever it may be. I mean, I found like model kits, that kind of stuff, just things that require that require your attention, so you actually break that rumination, so you actually focus on something else. And children, if you have children and you have a good relationship with your children, spend time with your children. That will massively lift you and give you strength. My children give me strength, and I adore the time that I spend with them. Don't get me wrong, it's hard. Obviously, being with them just by myself, you're no longer that team. But it's amazing, and I'm incredibly grateful to have that relationship that I still have with my daughters. And it's lovely because that's precious, that they are growing up, and it's a case of, you feel like you have to perform. you feel like you have to perform for people, you feel like you have to perform for your children, that everything's smiley, you're okay, and you got this mask on that, you're coping and that you're frightened, but you're not. And that's okay. And people who love and care for you and support you will understand that. They're not expecting you to be this superhero figure and that you're magically healed, but and not to perform. Just be you, and people will resonate and gravitate towards that once they know that you have the strength and the courage to keep going and to keep growing, keep learning. That is amazing. I mean, I've spent the last 8 years, I've made more friends in the last year and 10 months than I have the entire time I've been up here before, because you force yourself to. You get out there and and I've got friends now on my phone that obviously I've my friends purely through what I've gone through. I would have never met them otherwise. And some of them I consider to be very good friends now. And again, meeting someone, meeting connections, through online dating, Jesus. Um, yeah, I'll make of that what you will. Obviously, I wish people luck with it. Or just naturally hoping, or not hoping, just chatting to people will naturally, you will find people who you gravitate towards, and they gravitate towards you. But that's how you deal. That's how I dealt with the loneliness. Is just keep going, keep associating yourself with people, keep finding stuff, keep moving forward, keep that momentum going. And you're going to get hard days, of course you are. Everyone does. And you're going to get days when you don't want to be around people, which is absolutely fine. Everyone gets those days. But don't let it become that isolation. Don't become a hermit, because that will just, you will sink. You will spiral downwards, and in a very negative spiral, and quite possibly lead to a path of self-destruction, sort of alcohol abuse or whatever else. Don't let that happen. Or just keep moving, keep getting out there, keep walking, running, socializing, groups, support groups, chatting. That's the way you beat loneliness. Spending time with the people who matter to you, and the people who are there for you, and the people you are there for them. Yeah, so that's all I'm going to say on it, really. I hope it's been helpful. And again, this is purely my thoughts, and what's helped me is just treat yourself with kindness, treat yourself with care, and just know that even when you think you're not moving forwards, you are, because you're still here. You're still moving forwards, even though sometimes it may feel like one step forward, two back. And of course you're going to get those days, but it gets to a point where you actually start looking forward to it. I've got this dance class this evening, and I'm really looking forward to it, because for me that then becomes an anchor, an emotional anchor. I lost so much emotional anchors in the form of my ex, in the form of my mum, in the form of family life, because that to me was my routine, that was my identity, that was my world. And you start finding and developing new emotional anchors. So now, for example, I am my own emotional anchor. You have your own strength. My family, my children, my extended family are my emotional anchors. Dance class is for me an emotional anchor. And you will get there. But again, just take your time. You cannot force this. You cannot force this to happen. You can't magically expect yourself to feel okay, because when you're truly healing and when you're putting in the work and the time, it will take time, but you will come out a much stronger, resilient, grounded, and emotionally aware person that you didn't even know existed. I never knew that. I never knew that I could go through what I've gone through and come out stronger the other side, and a more grounded, appreciative, grateful person. And it's incredible when you get to that point. Again, I'm still on that journey. But anyhow, I hope everyone's treating themselves well, and I'll catch you soon.